Round 2 of the 2020 Formula One campaign brings us to the desert sands of Bahrain and the first of 3 night races. After coming off of what many are calling the most thrilling upset win of all time, Daniel Haidt and the rest of the Bengal F1 Racing come into this weekend riding a huge wave of momentum. During his interview with Claire Harrington of the World Motorsports Network while in Australia, Daniel complimented his aerodynamic team for the downforce setup they utilized during the race and how well it closely matched the simulation numbers before the season got underway. On the other side of the garage, Mick Schumacher will look to bounce back after an unforeseen mechanical failure caused him to DNF in his debut race. After finishing in the top 10 at his home race in Australia, Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault looked solid during the opening practice session in the daylight on Thursday, as well as Lewis Hamilton, the Mercedes, after coming off of what he described as a somewhat disappointing 4th place finish in Melbourne. And as we take a look at the results of Free Practice 1, the lead F1 Bengal racing driver continued his streak of first with a time of 1:31.9. Surprisingly, though, the time that Daniel set on the soft tires was during his race strategy stint. During Free Practice 2 under the floodlights Thursday night, the 2 Williams drivers of Nicholas Latifi and George Russell were struggling to find pace, while the Renault pair of Ricciardo and the Frenchman Esteban Ocon were looking solid and turning in consistent lap times as well. That resulted in them finishing the session solidly in the top 10. And yet again, it was Daniel Haidt who set the best time with a 1:32.6 on the hard tires, less than half a second better than Lewis Hamilton on the softs. That got everyone on social media asking, where is Daniel finding the speed to be quick even on the slowest tire compound? And the question continued to circulate during the final practice session in the daytime on Friday, as yet again Daniel took the top spot with 1:31.4. Sebastian Vettel managed to split the 2 Red Bulls by 12 thousandths of a second over Alexander Albon, and also Ocon was able to split the 2 racing point drivers of Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll by the same margin. Things are shaping up to be quite interesting as we head into Saturday qualifying under the floodlights to set the grid.
Hey everyone, Chicago Man 2008 here, and welcome back to my Formula One 2020 My Team Career Mode, episode number 2 today for the Bahrain Grand Prix in Season 1. And if you missed the previous episode, then be sure to go check that out before you see this one. But, spoiler alert, for those of you that haven't seen it, I'm coming off a dream start to the campaign as I dominated every single phase of the race weekend, while my teammate Mick Schumacher is on the other side of the spectrum as he had something let go in the back of his car. But it's only one race, so there's plenty of time for him to bounce back. But anyways, going forward now for the rest of this series, during the intro portion of the videos, you'll get a practice report of how well myself, Mick, and the other drivers did during the 3 practice sessions, because I figured you all don't want to see me complete the practice programs every single time. Then I'll show you the HQ and post-practice business that I've done before moving into qualifying. And we'll start things off by first selecting our first secondary sponsor since we achieved Team Acclaim Level 3 in the previous episode. At first I thought about signing Atlantic, but I felt that it was a little too easy for both me and Mick to achieve. So in the end, I decided to go with Equator Oil, which will require either one of us or both to score a total of at least 10 constructor points in a race weekend. With that, our new weekly income total will be just under $400,000. And now we'll add our new sponsor's decal onto the car. But since I forgot to add Pacifico onto the car last time, I'm going to take care of that first. I'll add it onto the top of the halo and make it solid black, plus add it onto the outer portion of the front wing end plates and make that white so that it stands out. Finally, I'll add Equator Oil onto the side pod, plus it will also appear on the bottom 2 front wing slats, and I'm going to make it red just to add a little flavor and character to the paint scheme. Next up on my agenda is to fill 2 days before the Grand Prix on the activity timeline, and we'll do that by doing some reaction training, and that will increase Schumacher's awareness by 2. And after practice, we now have a little over 1,000 R&D points, and as a reminder, we still have 3 upgrades pending, and that is a minor front downforce, a major weight reduction, and a level 1 gearbox durability. And thanks to one of the spec upgrades in the chassis facility, I'm going to make another chassis upgrade purchase. Unfortunately, I do not have enough points to purchase a major weight redistribution, So instead, I'm going to purchase a minor tire wear upgrade to hopefully extend the life of the tires on each stint during a race. So now we have 4 upgrades on the docket, and I'm really hoping that neither one of them fail. With everything now done, let's head to the track and start qualifying. Alright, here we are for the first nighttime qualifying session, and we'll pick up my run heading towards the double left-hander of turns 9 and 10. Easy does it on braking, sending the car to the outside, and bingo! Good apex of 10, and that will set me up nicely into the second of 3 DRS zones on the circuit. Almost 200 miles an hour at the end of the DRS straight, into turn 11, again letting the car run to the outside, climbing up the hill and going flat out through 12. Nice exit there, shifting down to 4th gear, lifting off the brakes to let the car roll through 13 and carry as much speed as possible into the back straight. And I was catching Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari a little bit, and I was hoping that I would catch up to him going into the final 2 turns and draft off of him to the finish. However, I was too far back to do so. Through 15, DRS open, and I take the top spot with a time of 1:29.496, 1.5 seconds better than Leclerc. And you got Bottas and Hamilton sandwiched in above the other Ferrari of Sebastian Vettel, following a Noah's Ark 2x2 from 6th to 9th, with the 2 Red Bulls of Max Verstappen and Alexander Albon, and the 2 McLarens of Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz. Nice job to Pierre Gasly in the AlphaTauri for splitting the 2 Renaults of his fellow countrymen Esteban Ocon and Daniel Ricciardo, and also to Kimi Räikkönen in the Alfa Romeo for making it into the next session. Yet again, Mick Schumacher got knocked out, and I'll once again fly the Bengal F1 Racing flag into Q2. And just like before, I'm going to try and make it into the top 10 of Q2 on a set of mediums, because the softs on this circuit wear out pretty fast when going through some of the high-speed corners, and the rears can wear out quickly as well if the power is put down too quickly on corner exit. Through 14 and 15, DRS open, across the line, and I once again grabbed the top spot with a 1:30.415. And it looks like I'm not the only one who made it into Q3 on mediums. Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes got in with a 1:31.871, 0.08 of a second better than Albon, and also Perez just snuck in by a little less than 0.05 over Ocon. Things are shaping up to be quite interesting here as we get set for the run for pole. And again, like in Australia, I have 3 fresh sets of soft tires to use in case either I mess up my lap, get held up in traffic, or to cover off whoever is in second. Let's go for a lap around the Bahrain International Circuit. Coming off of turn 15, catching a draft off of Verstappen down the start-finish straight, across the line, and I set my best time of the weekend so far with a 1:28.779 to take provisional pole by 1.6 seconds over Lewis Hamilton. And this time I selected a fresh set of soft tires before advancing time so that I wouldn't make the same mistake like I did in Australia. At this point, I felt really good that my time would indeed hold, and that no one was going to magically find lightning pace to take pole away from me. and after advancing time to the final 3 minutes, everyone except me was going out for a second run. So we're going to go now to an onboard with Hamilton in the upper left and the time and sector splits on the upper right. And as the session time runs out and the game fades to black, Hamilton does improve his time by a little over half a second to go sub 1:30, but it still wasn't enough to take pole away from me. So it's again myself and the lead Mercedes on the front row. Charles Leclerc just managed to outqualify Albon by 1/100th of a second to make it a Red Bull sandwich with Vettel and Verstappen above him. Daniel Ricciardo will look to have another solid race performance as he starts in row 4, same with Perez and Norris on row 5. Well, it looks like I could be in for another dominating performance here in Bahrain. Can I get my second one in a row and maybe establish myself as a possible title contender? Let's go to the grid for the first night race of the season in Sakhir.
We're here again then at a circuit famous for its stunning visuals and thrilling battles for glory. Who will take the spotlight in the Bahrain Grand Prix today? Formula One returns to the desert today on this exceptional 3.36 mile circuit. 15 corners provide plenty of overtaking opportunities. It could be a strategic race, this one, with Sakhir notorious for eating up the rear tyres. Watch out for drivers managing their rubber at some point during the Grand Prix. And as always, a man with plenty of racing experience joins me in the commentary box. Today it's Anthony Davidson. Tell me, Ant, you're no stranger to surviving the melee of turn 1. So how do you keep out of trouble when there's so much going on around you?
There are 3 main things to worry about there, Crofty: positioning, awareness and discipline. First, you have to put your car in a bit of space and make sure you have room to react to what the others are doing. Then you have to watch your mirrors and listen to the sounds around you to get a sense of where everyone is. And finally, just don't get too greedy. Just because a gap exists doesn't always mean you should go for it.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. The rookie lines up on pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel, and Leclerc, Albon, Ricciardo, Perez, and Lando Norris, Ocon, Sainz, Lance Stroll, and Gasly, Raikkonen, Kvyat, Romain Grosjean, and Antonio Giovinazzi, Schumacher, Russell, Magnussen, and Nicholas Latifi. And now it's time to head down to the track.
After the points finish last race, let's aim to keep the momentum going.
Alright, it's race time, and once again, only the safety car is in front of me. As we take a look at my projected race strategy, it will be a carbon copy like in Australia, a simple one-stop going from the mediums onto the hard tires. Since Bottas is also starting on the mediums, Mercedes might try a split strategy by having him also do the one-stop with me onto the hards and have Hamilton do the standard two-stop around this circuit. The other 8 drivers in the top 10 will be starting on the softs and will be forced onto the two-stop strategy, since I don't foresee anyone trying to really stretch their soft tire stint to do a one-stop onto the mediums. Those that qualified outside the top 10 will have a free choice of tires, and if they start on any of the 2 harder compounds, they could definitely gain advantage here by going longer on their first stint, even though they will be slower in the beginning phase, but they might be faster in the closing laps of the Grand Prix on lighter fuel if they choose to go from the hards to the mediums. Guess it all depends on how the teams feel about their tire wear rate. This is probably going to be a topsy-turvy race here, and anything can happen. So let's rev up to 5 red lights for the Bahrain Grand Prix, the first night race of the 2020 season, with myself on pole, Hamilton second, and my teammate Schumacher in the back. Lights are out, and we are underway, and another good getaway for me as I engage overtake mode on the ERS and move towards the preferred racing line into turn 1, while everyone else is scattering behind me and jockeying for position. Went a little wide on the apex, but still maintain the lead, and yet again, we all make it through without no one going off circuit. I guess someone told them to behave at the start. But the action is just heating up as we cut to an on-track camera view to see Ricciardo move to the inside of Perez, and also Albon attempt to pass Leclerc going into turn 4. Ricciardo edges in front, but Perez is keeping it close as they enter Sector 2 and the S section of 5, 6, and 7. Ricciardo does manage to get by as we now focus on Albon and Leclerc going into the tight hairpin of turn 8. Albon gets a slight lead thanks to the superior natural downforce on the Red Bull, but Leclerc pulls it back alongside with the Ferrari power as they head towards the downhill double left-hander of 9 and 10. Who's going to be brave and brake late? It's Leclerc as he squeezes out Albon at the apex and somehow holds his line. Phew! A lot of action going on there as it's only lap 1. Into the start of lap 2, checking in now on Mick Schumacher. He's gotten past the Russian Danny Kvyat in the AlphaTauri and the 2 house cars of Kevin Magnussen and Roman Grosjean to move up into 16th. So far so good for the young German, and hopefully he'll continue his march up the field. As we move into the start of lap 4, Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari is sizing up a move on Valtteri Bottas on the start-finish straight with DRS. Vettel moves to the inside trying to get every last ounce of power out of the Ferrari engine, and he gets the move done going into turn 1. While that was going on, here's a replay of Ricciardo looking to make a pass on Albon with DRS. Albon moves to the outside to defend, but that opens the door for the Aussie man to move to the outside. Under braking, still side by side, as Albon has the preferred line into turn 1, hops over the curb, but Ricciardo gets good traction off the corner, and they're still neck and neck through 2, and Albon just manages to hold on to his position as he gets DRS off Ricciardo. That's the kind of battles we like to see. Moving ahead to the start of lap 8, and Lewis Hamilton is the first of the soft tire runners to come in, and I believe it is on cue as the pit window is now open for those doing the 2-stop strategy from the softs at the start. Another set of softs is going on Hamilton's car, and it gets held up in the pit lane by Verstappen and Vettel, who also come in. Total Wolf is probably kicking himself as now Hamilton has lost even more time to me. But hey, I'll take any fortunate circumstances that come my way. 1 lap later, and it is Leclerc's turn to come in. As you probably saw on the previous footage, Vettel went onto a set of mediums and so did Verstappen, so both of them, like Hamilton, are doing a 2-stop strategy. And what's the tire choice for Leclerc? It's another set of soft tires, so both Hamilton and Leclerc are utilizing the soft-medium plan. The question still remaining is, what plan is Mercedes going to do for Bottas? And we'll find out the answer now as we go to lap 11 and Bottas is coming in. This is right at about the time the pit window starts to open for the one-stoppers like myself and many others who start on the mediums. And what's this? Soft tires going on for Bottas? I really thought for sure that they would put the Finn on the same strategy with me as it worked before in Australia. Oh well, I guess we'll see if their gamble pays off or not. On to lap number 12, and it is now our turn to come into the pit lane to go onto the hard tires, and this is the set that we'll be on till the end of the race. And I've built a really good gap to Stroll, Raikkonen, and Ocon, who have yet to pit in this race from the mediums that they've started on. And Hamilton does overtake Ocon to get back up to 4th, as you see on the top 5 leaderboard. On go the hards, and once again, another good stop for my pit crew at 2 seconds flat. And I'll be comfortably ahead of Hamilton, who will be back in second after Stroll and Raikkonen make their stops. And we'll go to a replay of how Hamilton overtook Ocon as I was making my stop, and we'll pick it up at the downhill portion into 9 and 10. At that point, there were about 4 laps on Hamilton's softs, so the tire wear will probably be kicking in about 2 to 3 laps or so. Through turn 10, and he was tucked in behind Ocon in a mini DRS train led by Raikkonen. Through turn 11, Hamilton gains on Ocon a little bit, but then decides to send it to the inside flat out through 12. But Ocon was still putting up a fight, but it was all for naught as Hamilton completes the pass into turn 13. That was a hold your breath kind of move there. If Ocon had not held his line through turn 12 and gave Hamilton the necessary space, that could have ended in disaster. Well, now fast forward now to lap 17, about halfway through the Grand Prix, and Hamilton is coming in for his second stop. At this point, he would need to have lightning pace on his final stint to challenge for the top step on the podium. And he'll go to the end of the race on a set of mediums to meet the required tire regulation. 2 laps later, and it's Sebastian Vettel who is now in second place at this stage of the race, and he comes in for his second stop, and so does Bottas right behind him, and Verstappen too. This is going to come down to the wire for the last 2 steps on the podium, and it looks like it will be another set of mediums for Vettel, and we just catch a glimpse of Bottas also going onto the mediums, and Verstappen is also on them as well as he exits his pit box. But that all doesn't matter now as we round the final 2 corners on the final lap of the Grand Prix to score our second win in a row for Bengal F1 Racing this season. Yeehaw!
Great job, you've done everything we wanted today.
Smiling faces on the pit wall after a superb win here at Sakir. And rightly so. What a brilliant effort from the whole team. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
A show-stopping performance from the three drivers approaching the podium right now. It's been an interesting Grand Prix, that's for sure.
Interesting indeed, Crofty, in terms of my total dominance throughout the whole race. Who would have thought that a fresh new team into Formula 1 would come in and take the world by storm in the first two races, and that's exactly what has transpired here. I guess you could say that my team has the golden touch when it comes to perfecting the strategies and the setup. And that has translated into me getting the maximum 26 points for the race, with Hamilton and Vettel joining me on the podium. And even though Mick Schumacher finished down the order, it's still a job well done in my books for making it through the entire Grand Prix, and hopefully that will translate into success later on in the season. Also, hats off to both Lance Stroll and Kimi Räikkönen for finessing their way into the top 10 to earn solid points for Racing Point and Alfa Romeo. As we take a look at the updated driver standings, I increased my lead over Lewis Hamilton to now 22 points, and Sebastian Vettel with that podium moves up to 5th place to make it a Noah's Ark of two Mercedes and Ferraris, separated by 9 points between 2nd and 5th. And again, with both Mercedes drivers scoring points, they increased their lead in the Constructors to 5 points over me and double that over Ferrari. Again, it's still in the early months of the season, so there's plenty of time for things to change. And with that win, I'll get a nice healthy boost to my driver acclaim, and oh so close to hitting acclaim level 4, but we will earn enough team acclaim to jump up to level 4, and also once again increase our income payout from our sponsors. Thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button, turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss any new videos coming out. Until next time, this is Chicago Man 2008, and I'll see you in Hanoi, Vietnam.